Now, many leaders stop at vision. They got something in their head, but they never continue on. When he says, write the vision, make it plain upon tables, so that he that readeth it will run, will be able to go in a direction. Welcome back. I'm Dr. KD, and I'll be your host. Hey, last episode, we talked about vision. So if you did not join us on the last episode, I would encourage you to go back as we're now continuing on talking about vision. And I left you, if you recall, with vision gives us a destination, strategy gives us a plan, systems gives us a process, but execution gives us progress. And you know what momentum does? It gives us consistency. And we talked about the impact that will have. It'll bring significance to us, but it'll bring glory to God when we do what he wants us to do. Now, many leaders stop at vision. They got something in their head, but they never continue on. Some move into strategy. I mean, they'll write it down. They'll start pinning it out a little bit, and but they will not continue on. And few build systems. I want you to think about that. Few people build systems. Yes, we may not know how to build systems. And if you don't, I would encourage you to bring a completer alongside of you. Some people are visionaries, they're initiators, and most leaders are. That's why they lead. They can see more, see quicker, and see farther than most people. But maybe they can't close it, if you will. They can't put the skeleton or the bones, the meat on the skeleton. And so they need a completer. And you're an initiator, you might need a completer. But few build systems, and even few sustain execution long enough to create momentum. They give up. A lot of people will just give up. They'll go, well, I can't get anyone on board. This is getting hard. It's a dry season in my life. Things are beginning to get cluttered. I tell you what, I'm just not going to do it. And so, but momentum is where organizations begin to experience real breakthroughs. So if you can get these things down, the vision, the strategy, the systems, and execution, it'll create momentum. Now, why leaders struggle with implementation, number one, I believe, is this reason. Because vision, now, I always come from a spiritual point of view, okay, with my leadership. But vision feels spiritual, but systems feel administrative. It's like, when I'm dreaming this and thinking this, man, me and God's walking together and he's talking to me and I'm talking to him, but it's not too spiritual when I got to sit down and start planning all this stuff out. When I got to start doing the paperwork and I got to start doing the meetings and I got to start organizing, that's not spiritual. Well, yeah, it is. It's just as spiritual as seeing the vision. Because you remember what I told you in the last segment? He says, write the vision, make it plain upon tables, so that he that readeth it will run, will be able to go in a direction. And so leaders sometimes feel that building systems is less spiritual, and it's not. But Scripture reveals a different reality. I love watching Jesus. When he fed the 5,000, what he did, he looked at that big crowd, and he looked at the disciples, and what did he do? He started delegating responsibility, didn't he? He told them to each get a basket. He told them to go get that boy with the 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And he structured distribution, didn't he? That's what he did. When you read that verse in detail, or that chapter in detail, he told them to sit down in certain groups, and he told them what to do and how to do it. And he had this system, this process. And spiritual impact often flows through practical structure. That's what it does. God is a pragmatic God. He's an incredible miracle worker. But I think sometimes until we do the possible, God will not do the impossible. And so I want to encourage you to understand that systems feel sometimes not so spiritual, but they are. Number two, leaders assume people will figure it out. This is what causes, we talked about why leaders struggle with implementation, is because they assume people will figure it out. I mean, I throw the vision out there and they'll get all the details. Surely they're smart enough, or surely they're competent enough, or surely they understand enough. Well, not necessarily. They may be smart, they may be competent, but they may not understand. It's been marinating in your heart. You've been thinking about it, dreaming about it, praying about it, maybe for months, maybe even for years. And now you walk into your leaders and you give it to them and you want them to get it in 5 minutes. Well, I call that the fire hydrant version. Just and then we get upset that they're not as excited about it as we are. Well, they're trying to still process it. They're still trying to understand it. And you should be able to grasp things quicker and more clear, if you will, because you're the leader. But you got to give your people that you're leading, your ball team, your employees or whatever, time to digest what you have already digested. So clear vision does not automatically produce clear action, is what I'm saying. Clear action. I learned something about advertisement. As you probably know, I've been leading for quite a while, and I did a study on advertisement. And they say this, that when a person has heard something 7 times, or let me back up, when you have said something 7 times, that person heard it for the first time. When you've said something 7 times, the other person heard it for the first time. Now, we know that's not just a thus saith the Lord, but that is on an average truth right there. And that's why you hear the jingles and music. That's why you hear people repeat stuff on TV. That's why you hear people repeat stuff in songs, because you say it over and over and over, and then people get it after a while. So understand that clear vision doesn't automatically produce clear action. People need defined roles. What are you asking me to do? I meant write that on a piece of paper for them. Let them read it back to you. And that way you can know that you have communicated clearly and they comprehend clearly. Because I can tell you, there's always a gap between what you say and how they understand it. Because sometimes I think we communicate what we have in our head and it doesn't come out of our mouth. And we think because we thought it, we said it. But when you put it on a piece of paper, I say it like this, it removes all the amnesia. I mean, it's either we have reading comprehension or we don't. And then create clear timelines. I want this done by such and such time or date. Now I know what you want me to do, and I know when you want it completed. Don't ever give a task that's important without a deadline, because your priority and their priority may be different. What I have to do sometimes is, through the past, is I would give a diverse grouping of directives, if you will, and then the next day I'd give more directives. Well, what I had to do is tell the person that I'm giving all these directives to, instead of it drowning them, what they should do without me having to tell them. But again, clear vision does not mean clear action. Remember that. But what they should have done is said, okay, I got 10 things, Pastor. What is it you want me to do in priority? Because I want to do whatever you want me to do. Now, they don't need to make the 10 things their priority. It needs to be my priority. But watch this. If I don't give clear deadlines, then I can't hold them accountable for going the direction they want to go when I gave them 10 things or 10 directions to go in. So here's what you do. Write it down, talk to them, get them to talk back, give them a deadline. And if you give more directives than they can do in one day, say, now, would you like me to prioritize what's important to me? And that will eliminate a lot of frustration for you as a leader. Because more than most likely, you gave them 10 things and you would approach it differently. Well, they'll go a different direction and do number 9 instead of number 1. And that can be both of your faults because you didn't make it clear and they assumed. And so measurable outcomes. What would the outcome you would like to see? What is the outcome you would like to see, rather? I mean, let them know this is the win. This is what I feel if you would do this, this would happen, or this is what I would appreciate the end result being. Without these, implementation becomes what? Guesswork. That's what it becomes. So let's back up. I'm going to give you one more. Why leaders struggle with implementation. We said vision feels spiritual and systems feel administrative. And then we said leaders assume people have figured out, and we've already understood our math don't work. That's what we understood. But number 3, leaders underestimate the complexity of things. Every initiative requires coordination. And so I think it's imperative that we understand that coordination has to take place. And then there needs to be communication that we just spoke about. And boy, then there needs to be correction. Now, what happens when your leader, your boss, or your employees, your teammates, or whatever, your employees go a different direction than you want them to go in? Well, you've got to get things corrected. You got to say, okay, I appreciate your effort. I appreciate your time. Thank you for going. I know you're giving me your heart. You're giving me your time and your energy. But we've kind of got off course here. So what I'd like to do is correct some of the direction you're going in and redirect you back on the main track of what we're trying to accomplish, which is the vision. And when it comes to understanding or underestimating complexity, we have to understand consistency is important too. So every initiative requires coordination, communication, correction, and consistency. Let me just say this to you. Execution is rarely as simple as the original idea. I want to come back to that feeding the 5,000. Jesus didn't just look at him and say, feed them, did he? No, he instructed the disciples to organize the crowd. It says this, and he commanded them to make all sit down by companies upon the green grass. So he told them what he wanted. He told them where he wanted them, what he wanted them to do, sit down in groups, companies, up on the green grass. Now that's about as clear as you can get it. This is leadership structure, groups, orders, distribution channels. And miracles often require management. And so the last thing I'll share with you before we end this particular segment is implementation converts intention into reality. Organizations are filled with good intentions. And I want you to know, and I'm not saying this disrespectful, but the graveyard is full of people who intended to do something. But I want to tell you that intentions never come in, even good intentions, never come into reality without execution. So I am Dr. KD. I have been enjoying talking with you. I look forward to speaking with you as we continue on this thing about vision. I'm excited about vision because I know that God has a plan for all of us. And so this is T15. Till next time.